Hey, Kimberly, welcome to When Spirit Talks.
Hello. I was going to say good morning, but it's not good morning for you. And we've just spoken about that. But hi, thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be on your podcast. And I love that Feng Shui is now sort of popping up in all of these different areas and all of these different people around the world. So thank you for inviting me and Feng Shui onto your podcast.
I'm really excited because I remember like when we connected on Instagram and I saw your page, I was like, you are fascinating. All of the amazing like tips you leave are like incredible. And I'm going to share one of the ones I've been using from you in my own
Okay,
house later on when we like dive in a little bit deeper. But first,
amazing.
I want to hear all about your journey and how you became known as the modern day Feng Shui consultant.
Well, it's been a journey and an incredible one. And I think it's important to start off by saying that I wasn't always spiritual. Like it wasn't something, I wasn't raised in a feng shui home. It was just a typical British household. My dad went to work, my mum helped him. I went to a nice school, like just this normal upbringing. Absolutely nothing to do with the Eastern world whatsoever. Like my family lineage could not be more British if we tried. And all of a sudden, I'm like delving into this Eastern world. But, I guess that's a story in itself. But so I was a teacher for 10 years and I loved it. I taught 16 to 18-year-olds. They educated me just as much as I
Mhm.
educated them. And I taught equine biology of all
Oh,
things.
wow.
I'm that person, when you invite round, you're like, oh, so yeah, I worked in HR, I've been a teacher, now I'm a feng shui consultant. But anyhow,
Amazing.
um, go with your dreams is the message for that one. But my college had gone into administration, and I knew that I was going to get made redundant. And so I started looking for another job. And I started a business in February 2020. Not the best time to
Mm.
start a job. And it was selling products. It was sort of linked to gut health, because in horses, you feed from the gut. So any behavioral change, you start from the gut. So if their coat isn't shiny, like, what are you feeding it? If their behavior is not right, what are you feeding it? Whereas with humans, you're like, oh, my skin's dry, put more cream on.
Mm.
It's completely the opposite. So I started to get obsessed with gut health, which I still am. Another very random sort of spike in my characteristic. But I started it the month before the world shut down, and it was very much a client facing role, seeing, touching, believing, presenting. And so I I had to learn how to do it all online, how to do it all on Instagram, which was tricky because I know if you follow me now, you probably think, she must find this really easy. She just pops up on Instagram every day. But that wasn't me. Like I
Mm.
was so paranoid. And it's not until you put yourself out on social media that you go, oh, my face isn't symmetrical. The left-hand side of my face, I prefer much more than the right-hand side of my face. And what have I done to my hair? All of these things.
Yeah.
And as a mum, I was homeschooling my daughter. And so I had my daughter at home, my dog at home, and my husband went to work because he worked in construction. So that was like the only industry in
Mm.
the UK that was allowed to go to work. So I actually think, in the grand scheme of things, it was probably better that he did go to work and that he wasn't at home. But anyway, he doesn't listen to my podcast, so I can say that it's fine. Um, so I just found it really stressful, and I am very aware of like my mental health and making sure that I do things that help keep me positive, and so that I don't fall down into a lower mood. I had postnatal depression after I had my daughter, so
Mhm.
I'm very aware of like where my level is. And all of the news, all of the media, all of the doom scrolling, all of the Instagram, it was really beginning to affect me, and I thought, right, I've got to stop this. So I changed where I was getting my information from. I started listening to more podcasts. And I loved it because you start to get to know the person, and you believe you're friends with them, really.
Yeah.
And so I randomly stumbled across a podcast, and I'd sort of made Instagram friends with the host, and she interviewed a feng shui consultant. And they were talking about how you can use Feng Shui to attract a partner into your life. And my
Mm.
instant thought was, what a load of rubbish. Like, how on earth are you going to move a few bits around and a partner's just going to magically appear at your door, like with 12 red roses and a card saying, I love you? Like, that's
Yeah.
just not going to happen. And the host actually did meet somebody. She did do some stuff in the house and she did meet somebody, not the right person.
Mm.
So that's lesson number one. Be very clear with your intentions as to
Mhm.
who it is that you want to attract into your life. But she did meet someone and I thought, right, I'm going to do some Googling. I've got quite a bit of time on my hands now because it's just me at home. And so I did a lot of research. And what I found was that it was almost like this upper echelon of society that used Feng Shui.
Mhm.
So you've got Oprah Winfrey, Bill Gates, even Donald Trump, like him or not, his phrase about Feng Shui is that he can't afford not to have it in his life
Wow. I did not know
financially.
that.
Yeah,
Interesting.
financially, he's not doing bad, is he?
Mhm.
Um, and then Richard Branson, he loves Feng Shui. So all of, I'd say 98% of hotels, like the large hotels around the world, are all Feng Shui, shopping centers, airports, because they want people to feel calm. If people
Mhm.
aren't calm, they're not happy. And if people are calm and happy, they're more likely to spend time there and spend more money there, especially in airports where lots of stressful things happen. So if you think of an airport, most of the time there's a water feature somewhere in the airport.
Mm.
Dubai is full of water features. I went through Singapore the last time back to the UK, and they've basically turned the whole central point of the departure lounge into just lots and lots of fountains. And people
Mm.
sit by them because water's cleansing and it's really good for wealth and prosperity as well. So no wonder they've got them in the airport. And then I got really annoyed because I was like, well, why do they know about it? And
Mm.
I don't. Like, I'm here at home trying to start a business in lockdown with my daughter, my dog, and the house feels really stressful. We've lost our
Mhm.
sense of humor. We've gone into operation mode where everything is just really transactional. Why isn't my home calm? So, the lady that the host interviewed, I got her to analyze my home. And when I say you analyze it for Feng Shui, you follow this amazing number combination sort of theory, and it tells you what's happening energetically in each of the areas of your home, and then it uses the five elements to remedy that. So it's just like acupuncture for the home, where you go and it releases the energy blocks, lets the good energy flow again, and absorbs the negative energy.
Mm.
And for me, it was the missing part of the manifestation puzzle because I was doing everything. I mean, poor husband, my side of the mirror in the bathroom had like a million post-it notes on it. Like I was doing all the random stuff. I've burnt stuff in the garden. I'm sure I remembered the other day, I think I've got a piece of paper buried in the garden in our house. And with like a random figure of salary that I wanted to earn. I was like, I read somewhere that you bury it and then it's grounded and it's going to come up from the universe, like all of that stuff. And none of it was working. Absolutely
Mhm.
none of it was working. I felt like I was banging my head against a brick wall. And Feng Shui works with intention. So you do have to believe it. You have to have that belief because it's all about energy. And like with
Mm.
manifestation, it's about bringing if you've read The Secret by Rhonda Byrne about being on right frequencies, I call it being a sustainable 7 out of 10
Mm.
in terms of happiness and energy. 10 out of 10 is just overwhelming and overbearing and you'll burn out. But 7 out of 10 of happiness, then you're more likely to attract 7 out of 10 stuff back into your life.
Mm.
So it's all about that energy. It's the energy of yourself, it's the energy in the home. And so when I put the intentions into the remedies into my home, my intentions was to have, a calm home, a happy home. But my real one, and this is really selfish, was to do with my business because I was
Mm.
so fed up with what was happening. And in my eyes, I was like, well, if I can crack the business side of things, then it's going to release the calm, like release the stress, sorry, in the home and bring the
Mhm.
calm. So my intentions were to have a business where I could work completely remotely because I knew that within the next few years we were moving from England to Australia, which is
Mm.
where I am now. So I wanted it to be remote. I wanted to work from a beach. now I sort of take that back because now if I'm on a beach, I don't want to work. But do you know what I mean? Just having
Yeah.
that flexibility when people say, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
working from a beach," I'm like, "That's amazing." But actually, now I don't. I want to have time off, so I don't have to work on a beach. But I wanted to work remotely. I wanted to be financially independent and not just having enough money. I want to turn my business into a multi-million dollar business. Like not just, I'm not talking small stuff. I want
Hmm.
to take it somewhere, but what I wanted to do was do it by helping people. So I wasn't going to make all this money by ripping people off or
Mm.
by selling something that I didn't believe in. I wanted to prove almost that you can have a super successful business, be happy, work with beautiful people, be paid on time, and have it an income of millions of dollars a year. And I released that manifestation about it coming from that current business. I just said from any business. And then a month later, I had an email to say from the Feng Shui consultant that did my home that she was running her last ever certification program and would I be interested in doing it? And I thought, this is it. This is, you know that gut
Yeah.
feel, and you're like, I've just got to do it. Now, this was a really interesting conversation between me and my husband because, first of all, the course was 10,000 US dollars.
Wow.
So a lot of money. And I absolutely did not have 10,000 American dollars because I was trying to turn my business. I've been made redundant. We're in lockdown.
Hmm.
So it was a family conversation to say, look, can I use some of our savings to do this course? Now, up until that point, I feng shuied our home without my husband knowing. So I'd never
Hmm.
even mentioned the two words feng shui to him. And now all of a sudden, I want to do a course and I want to become a practitioner, and this is what I want to
Yeah.
do for my business. So luckily, we've been married long enough for him to know. Just like I said before, I've been a teacher, I've worked in HR, I love gut health. Like it's not
Hmm.
out of the ordinary for me to just pick something out of the blue and just go with it. So he said, look, yes, go as a supportive husband, go for it. And I said, I promise I'll pay you back. And he just laughed because he was like, how? How are you going to pay me back? Because you don't earn this money. I was like, somehow I will pay you back. And so I put myself down on the course and it was amazing. And I thought, well, how am I going to do this? And what Feng Shui does by clearing the energy in your home, it makes these signs really obvious. The yes and the no. Like you just know that your pathway is being looked after. It really helps you accept things when things don't go what you in a way that you think is right. But it
Mm.
also steers you in a direction that may feel completely off, but you just know that it's there for a reason. Like I see it that with manifestation, if you're it releases this like fog in your home. So, for example, if you're trying to use your phone in a wooded area and there's no signal, you can't make that phone call because the signal isn't getting out there to the universe. And it's like that in your home. If you're manifesting and you've got this heavy energy in your home, your message isn't going to get out there to the universe. So, it's about clearing that that dull heaviness in your home so that your intentions can go out there. So I was driving through our local high street after I'd agreed to do this course, thinking, how on earth am I going to pay this back? And I just had this calling. Now, bearing in mind, I was in my gym kit, like not looking professional at all. And I just had this thought of going, I need to go into that shop there, it's a gift shop, and ask her if she needs help with her Instagram because I'd learned how to do it through the
Hmm.
previous business. Like I knew how Instagram worked. I also knew that people were annoyed with Instagram and couldn't be bothered with it, but they know it's a really huge part of their business. So I went in, fumbled through a conversation, and just basically went, "Oh, I've just decided I'm going to start doing this as a business. I've done it for my business. Look, here it is. Do you need help?" And she's like, "Yes, this is exactly what I need. How much do you charge?" And I was like, I'd not even thought that part three. And I went, £300 a month, which was actually quite
Hmm.
expensive, but it just came out. And she was like, yeah, fine. Can you start next month? I was like, yeah,
Amazing.
amazing. So I then just went and put an advert on the local Facebook group. And within a day, I had 6 clients. So I was full in a day.
Wow.
I started this. So when my husband came back from work, I was like, guess what I'm doing now? But that helped me then pay for my course whilst I was studying. And it was amazing because I still got out, got to meet people, did something for me that was quite easy whilst I was studying. And I was studying for a
Hmm.
year and I loved it. And I did it really all the way until we moved to Australia last year. And that's really when, you know, my business it changed significantly. But right from the start, I launched my business in November 22
Hmm.
and which, we're in September 24, so it's not actually that
Hmm.
long ago. And in the February of 2023, so 3 months later, that's when I got asked to go on to This Morning, which is the UK morning TV program, to go and talk about Feng Shui, which was only 3 months after starting my business. And
Wow.
since then, these incredible opportunities have just come my way. And I fully believe that that's because Feng Shui has allowed my pathway to be opened and allowed these amazing opportunities in. So that is, I know, a very long answer to your question, but it's completely changed my life. And my job now is to help bring calm and happiness and good luck into people's homes. And I believe I have the best job in the world, and I'm so grateful for it.
That is such a wild story, but such an empowering, amazing, like incredible story. Like the fact that you basically called in everything that you wanted and like it was even maybe better than you actually
Oh,
expected it to
far
be.
better.
And the one thing that you mentioned that I honestly had no idea about is that you can use Feng Shui for manifestation. So I, years ago, always thought it was just strictly how to organize the home for, like you said, common piece. I didn't know there was any other way to like
Yeah.
incorporate that. So can you talk more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Feng Shui, there is, I think, last count, about 120 different schools of Feng Shui, and each one
Mm.
of those has its own interpretations. So you have lots of different, like the main schools of Feng Shui, if you like the big sort of universities of them. Some of them just look at furniture arrangement just to keep that flow of energy in the home nice. The Feng Shui school that I practice is called Flying Stars Feng Shui. And little did I know that I'd signed up to the most advanced form of Feng Shui and the most complex form of Feng Shui. But this is specific to your home. So it's not just saying in the north, you need to add blues. No matter where your house is in the world, you need to add blues because that will help your business, life's journey, and your career. Flying Stars Feng Shui looks at your home. It looks at when it was built, geographically, all things like that. And so I can tell you exactly what's happening in your home according to your money situation, your like the people in the home, the health, what's likely to happen in your home, what's not likely to happen. And we divide the home into 9 different areas, and each of those areas represents an area of your life. So, as I say, north, your career, business, life's journey. Your southeast is your wealth, prosperity, and abundance. Southwest is love and romance. So, by adding the remedies in, you're clearing that energy. So, if something is stuck, like if you feel stuck in your job or your money, like you feel that money is coming in, but it's just flying out, or it's really hard to earn, then we clear that energy. So it's like saying, well, I've got shoulder pain. It's like, okay, well, then let's look at the top of your back, the middle of the back, and probably somewhere random, like your little toe. Like, let's move all
Yeah.
of those things around, and all of a sudden, your shoulder feels amazing.
Yeah.
So that's what we do: is we manipulate the energy in the home, and then it's up to the client to then say, okay, so what is it that I want to bring in? So when I place these intentions in, what is it that I want to bring in? And I'm a huge believer in visual affirmations as well. So a
Mm.
bit like a vision board,
Hmm.
what we do is we actually, rather than having one board, is we subtly use these images around the house. So I give lots and lots of tips on my Instagram and on my podcast as well. And they're like the icing on the cake. So if your home has got an all right energy, then these sorts of things are going to work. They're going to work a
Mm.
little bit. It's a bit like following tips from a personal trainer on Instagram. Like some of the tips are going to work, but to really get the benefit, you work with them one to one. So that's like the difference. So I give these tips and they do help. And some of the things are things like, okay, so in the southeast of your home, let's have a visual affirmation, which is just a picture. It could be a
Mhm.
book, it could be something really, really subtle. But what does wealth mean for you? And the modern day Feng Shui consultant that you kindly introduced me as, the reason why I feel that that's really important is because if you walked into my home, you'd never guess that I was a Feng Shui consultant. You'd never guess that the home had been Feng Shuied. Yes, I've probably got a few more crystals than the average household, but that's because people don't know what to buy me for Christmas or birthday. It's like, here's a crystal, here's more crystals, which I'm, grateful for.
Yeah.
But the visual affirmations that I use in the southeast of my home are photos of us on holiday as a family. Because for me to go on holiday, that's true wealth to me,
Mm.
to have the money to go, but also to have the time to go as well as a family. So in the southeast, it's all of our most amazing holidays that we've been
Mm.
on, travel brochures. I've also got I picked up a brochure of yachts and I was like, well, that's going to go in there because you never know. And so that's just on the coffee table. So you'd, like I say, you would never know. And in terms of attracting a partner into your life, things like the Southwest, especially, because that's love and romance, but your bedroom also counts as this area as well, a little bit.
Mhm.
You can add pictures of couples. So it doesn't have to be you and your partner. So if you are single and you want to attract somebody in, have a lovely, beautiful painting of a couple, something that represents love and romance to you. You want things in pairs. Quite often, people just have singular pictures of men or women or animals or like a tree, but actually, you want two things together. So species that have mates for life, so like swans or ducks
Mm.
or two peonies, like that's the artwork that you want in the southwest of your home. Having those pictures, two rose quartz rather than one, two hearts rather than one, having equal amount of cushions on your bed rather than like just one in the middle. If you are single and you want to attract somebody in, have you got space in your wardrobe for somebody to come over? It's like it's physically
Mm.
making space for them as well. So that's how we link manifestation and feng shui, by breaking down your home into these different areas and then really thinking about each of these different areas. Because I think with manifestation, some people get stuck because it's really hard to think, what actually is it that I want? Like, is it love or is it wealth? And can you have both? So by dividing it by the 9 areas, actually you come up with like 9 different things that you want to attract into your life. And it does make it a little bit easier. And there's a huge guilt about manifestation as well, because I also teach feng shui as well, and I've got a course going on at the moment, and we were talking about attracting money into your life. And we were laughing because people feel guilty. Like, I love to. There's a lady that messaged me. She said, I need to clear £17,000 of debt. I've got £17,000 of debt. What can I do? And she said, I feel guilty because for me to get that money, it means that basically someone has to die and I inherit the money. So
Mm.
she's like, well, how do I said, you need to think wider than that. It's amazing where money can come from. There's a guilt thing about it. Am I being
Yeah.
greedy? Like all of these things. So that is basically how it links to manifestation.
So now that you brought up the whole money topic, it's so interesting because that is the tip that I started doing in my own home where you were talking about cleaning the stove top,
Yes.
and setting your intention to call it in. And before I get to what happened with that, I do want to talk about that whole aspect that you mentioned about like feeling guilty about asking for things because I think so many of us do have that guilt.
Mm.
Like I don't deserve this, or Let's say I want to call in $1,000, but oh, that's too much. Let me just call in a
Mm,
hundred. I'll never call in more than that. So it's like, yeah, so hard to tie it into like that scarcity mindset and like
mhm.
really change that. But it was so interesting because I watched a reel and I was like, let me try this. I'm all about energy and manifestation anyway. So I'm like going through it, cleaning it. The first time I did it, I forgot to set the intention. So I'm literally just cleaning the stove. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
let me try it again.
A
Let
very clean
me,
stove.
yeah, let me try it again and put more of that intention into it. And that day, I don't remember what it was at this time because I did it a while back, but like something came through. Either like someone booked a session or I got, some kind of money and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I remember telling my husband about it. And he's not like me in
Yeah.
terms of like this whole energy thing. So I remember he was like laughing, but I can tell you, this has happened like 7 times where I have
Wow.
done this and like I ended up getting something in. So the other day I cleaned the stove, right? I didn't say anything. And he's like, "Oh, you cleaned the stove today. Does that mean you're gonna get something?"
I've got a plan.
And it's so funny because it was that day that I launched my Akashic Records certification class. And so I had a few people sign up like right away, and I didn't even think to tell him. But today I was like, oh, I'm going to be talking to Kimberly. And I was like, oh, by the way, that day you were asking me about like whether I was going to get something for cleaning the stove, I was like, oh, yeah, that's what happened. But I loved that tip. So that was
Amazing.
really cool. And I have a
Amazing.
question. What
Mhm.
is like a common thing that you see that typically blocks energy in a home?
Oh gosh, there can be so many
Hmm.
things. I think it's almost like my first tip of Feng Shui as well. And it's not glamorous, but it is
Hmm.
decluttering. And if you think the energy is this beautiful, graceful flow of loveliness through your home, it comes in through your front door. That's where the good energy comes in. So by opening that, cleaning your windows, just letting that good energy in. You know what it's like when you open the window and you take that first breath of fresh air that comes in like,
Hmm.
oh, that's so nice. The back door, that's where the negative energy is leaving. So letting the bad energy out. So you want the energy to be able to flow into all of the rooms. Now, the more stuff that's in the way, the harder it is for that energy to move around the home. So, by decluttering, not only are you making physical space for this energy to get around, but it's all the stuff that you might be holding on to that energetically isn't allowing you to move forwards.
Hmm.
And that can be so, from a job point of view, when I was looking to change my career, when I was really going through and I was decluttering the house, I got rid of all of my folders from when I was teaching because I just knew that I wasn't going to need it anymore. And most of it was online anyway.
Hmm.
All the books from when I studied, when I went to go and do my second degree in equine biology from all years ago, took those to the charity shop. I had lanyards from jobs that I had when I was in my 20s. Like, why do I need that? If I'm looking to move forwards in my career, why would I have that stuff? Same in your wardrobe, like hanging on to stuff, I can say this, at 44, my body's changed over the last 10 years, 20 years having kids or having Imi that I can't fit into the stuff that I had before. So why would I hold on to it? Because again, first of all, it's the energy that it holds, but it's also my energy that changes when I go in. And I feel rubbish because I'm like, oh, I'd love to wear that, but I can't. I can't tell you how beautiful it was when we moved to Australia and we came over with two suitcases each, that I only brought nice stuff with me. All the stuff that I couldn't fit into anymore, all the stuff that, again, like you're saying, deserved to earn the money. The amount of times I spent my day in clothes that I'd had for years that had holes in because I didn't want to ruin my good stuff. So I was there,
That's me.
even the knickers that, yeah, even the knickers that you keep and you think, oh my God, if I ended up in hospital and somebody had to see those knickers, embarrassed. But you just keep them, you're like, oh, well, I'll save my good ones for when, I don't know, for a nice event or whatever. But wear it now. Like, don't beat yourself up. You are like the shower gel that somebody buys you for Christmas. It's really nice. Use it. The candle that you don't feel that, you should light in the daytime because it's really expensive. Burn it. Like, just allow yourself to be happy. So all of this stuff can really hold on to things. And a really good example of this was a lady emailed me this week who I'd analyzed her home and everything was going beautifully. And she sent me a message. She said, Kimberly, I don't know what's gone wrong, but she said, um, it's a bit gory, so do close your
Hmm.
ears if you're not good with it. She trapped her finger in the washing line and she chopped the top part of it off.
Hmm.
And then her husband whacked his head on the stairs and had to go to hospital for stitches.
Wow.
It's like, and it all happened in a week. And normally I'm like, oh, okay. If somebody said this to me, my whose home I hadn't analyzed, I'd be like, right, there's something energetically. We need to
Yeah.
just go in and clear it. But because I'd analyzed a home, this stuff doesn't normally happen. Like things, all right, accidents happen. I can't stop rubbish stuff happening. I wish I
Hmm.
could. My job would be much easier if I could. But you
Hmm.
feel supported in your home, like through these processes. And I said, have you got anything new in your house? Like, have you bought anything in that, like, something's changed? Whether it's something that's happened to you and you've brought that energy in, like at work, if you've had some bad news about your job, you can bring that energy in and it just feels a bit different, somebody else. Like, what have you brought in? And she was like, nothing. And I was like, okay, let's have a look. And then she sent me a message the next day going, oh my goodness, I've realized what it is. She said, my father-in-law passed away 4 months ago, and my mother-in-law has gifted my son all of granddad's army gear. So it was
Wow.
uniforms, but not only that, like his knives and like some of the artillery stuff, some of the pictures, and she'd brought it into her home. I was like, that could be it. I'm not saying it is it, but that could be it because that stuff has seen a lot. And
Hmm.
especially if it's been in an attic, sat still for a little bit, you've shaken it around. It's a bit like a can of Coke. Like you shake it
Hmm.
around and then you open the lid and it goes, there's all my energy. And that energy's in your home. So she's like, well, now my son loves it, so I can't get rid of it. So it's like, okay, just put it outside for a little bit. So things like secondhand clothing, secondhand furniture, I'm not against it at all. But just before you let it in, let it just sit outside for a little bit, let it air off, sage it, all of those things. So I would say, again, this is a really long answer to your question. Sorry.
I love it. I love all your answers. Keep going.
What causes, thank you, what causes that bad energy is the stuff really that we have in our home, even broken items, because if you have a glass and you rub your finger around the top and it makes that beautiful noise, the crystal noise
Mhm.
when you rub your finger around, if that glass is chipped, it won't make any noise. And so again, anything that's chipped or cracked or like mirrors that are cracked, all of those types of things in your home, the energy won't flow as freely and as beautifully. So again, anything that's not working, I was terrible. I just used to, if something stopped working, I'll put it in a cupboard and go, oh, I'll fix it one day. I'm sure it will just
Mhm.
magically come back to life. Don't hold on to it. Like it's not working. We want all the stuff in our home to be working for us. And actually, we don't need that much stuff around us to be happy. If we're happy in ourselves and with this sustainable seven, we don't need all of these things around us to make us happy. And although it's really hard to do that initial decluttering process, because it's emotional, it's
Mhm.
really emotional. And also, it's a financial thing as well. You think, well, I spent loads of money on that, but give somebody else the opportunity to own that piece of clothing, for example, or own that furniture that perhaps they wouldn't have been able to afford before. Like, give it a new lease of life rather than just holding on to it.
Everything you said was incredible, and I literally saw myself in each of those scenarios. Like closet, I've been there where like I've had this shirt for like 10
Yeah.
years and it still fits, but I just don't wear it. Like you
Yeah.
just don't feel called to wear it, but why is it still in my closet? Why do I
Yeah.
still put it away every season and take it back? So yeah,
Yes.
that whole mindset thing. And even when you were talking about the objects, because I always say like objects do hold energy. And
Mm.
so a lot of times, if you are very sensitive to energy, if you're getting things secondhand, like typically you might notice that. So it's so
Yeah.
interesting that that did happen with one of your clients and that you were able to
Mm.
pick up on it like so
Mm.
quickly. Like that's incredible. And I had a question as well. What area of the home would you prioritize? Like if there was one area, and I know, like you said, every home is different, every family is different, but if there's one specific place that you would say, no matter what, get to work here, what would it be?
I'm going to cheat and have two.
Okay, I
And this
love
is going to make
it.
sense.
Yes.
So I mentioned earlier about the good energy entering through your
Hmm.
front door. Now, if you live in an apartment, your Feng Shui front door is actually like if you have a balcony or the windows out to the view, it's basically where the energy is coming through those windows. And obviously, if you have a small door going into your apartment, that's not the entrance. The entrance is where
Mm.
that lovely energy is coming in. So it would be to clear the entrance to your house. Like, does your door open easily? Because that's where the energy is coming in. Are the plants alive? Like, or are they dead and you just can't be bothered to do something about it, which is me. Like, I'm not green fingered at all. But could your front entrance do with a bit of a spruce up? And it doesn't have to cost you a fortune. But the reason why that's important, so yes, the good energy is coming in, but it's how you feel when you come into your home. Your home is your sanctuary, and you've spent a lot of money on this home, whether you're owning or renting. It's still the same. It's probably the most expensive thing that you are giving out every month. So you've got to start to try to love it. You've got to build that relationship with it. And so having that front door when you walk up to it and you go, ah, this is lovely. So just when you open the door, what do you see? Like, is it I have a lot of like prints that are from the Italian coastline because I want to go there. I
Mm.
want to go there in the yacht that I've got in the magazine that's in the southeast of my home. But that's where I want to go. So I come in and I'm like, oh, that's so lovely. It could be a family picture, but don't put a family picture up if you don't actually really like everybody in your
Mm.
family. So just make sure that that good energy is coming in. And then going back to your question, for me, it's the health area, which is the central area of your home, because without our health, nothing else really matters. We've got to look after ourselves first, which sometimes we are the last people that we think about when it
Hmm.
comes to looking after people. So be self. It's not even selfish. It's in our genes, like it's in our genetics to protect ourselves. So that's all you're doing. But the central area looks after your mental health, your physical health, your self-acceptance. And so anything to do like with anxiety, with depression, with mood, all of that could be coming from the central area of your home. So declutter it. Just because it's in a drawer doesn't mean that it's hidden away. Go through those drawers. Like what is amazing when we moved, it is incredible what you hold onto. Like, do you need six sets of candles because you've kept forgetting to buy some candles every time it's somebody's birthday? The junk drawer. I know that people have different names for that. They're probably
Yeah.
not appropriate to say on a podcast. But what is sitting in the central area of your home, and then use that visual affirmation. So again, I worked with a client and she had terrible anxiety, and she was just like, I just feel that I can't move on. I was like, okay, let's look at the central area of your home. So what is there? She said, I've got a picture of me graduating from university. I've got this, that, and the other. And I said, well, how did you feel at university? She said, I hated it. So, well, then
Mm.
why have you got a picture there then? Like, you've got the degree, you've got a piece of paper somewhere that you might not be able to find. You've got the degree. You don't have to have that picture there, because if every time you're looking at that picture, it makes you riddled with anxiety because it takes you back to how you were feeling at the time, move it away. So have photos there of you feeling your best inside and out. Like, give yourself confidence. Or if you don't have one because you've struggled for such a long time, what would you do if your confidence level was a 7 out of 10, or even a 10 out of 10, or if your health was a 10 out of 10? What would you do? Would you go and visit a country? So maybe have that picture there. Would you buy yourself a new outfit, for example? Print it off, fold it up, and just put it in a drawer. No one needs to know there. But what you're doing is you're generating that feeling inside of you of allowing yourself to go to a space that you can see yourself being healthier or wealthier or in love or like knocking down glass ceilings that may have been holding you back forever. It's that switching of feeling that you believe in yourself and you back yourself, because you've got to be proud of yourself and you've got to back yourself, because if you don't do it, nobody else will.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I love everything you said, and I love how you tied it all into energy. Like everything is energy, and
Mhm.
it was so beautiful. And it's gonna like send us right into the spirit segment. So I want to know, what is one thing you always include in your daily routine that helps you stay grounded and balanced that might help others do the same?
Going outside.
Hmm.
And I know I'm really lucky. I live on the Gold Coast in Australia, but sometimes it just crack a good thunderstorm out here. But just going outside this morning, I just took my coffee, stood outside, feet on the ground with my dog, and that just sets me up for the day. Or I go for a walk. And I did this in England, come rain or shine, I would go outside, because for me, that's where I stop thinking about the daily stuff that's going on. I'm at my most creative when I'm going for a walk. I don't say a run, because I definitely don't run. I shuffle, and I got overtaken by somebody walking the other day. So I do not go at any speed whatsoever. But that's when I almost feel it's like when you do exercise or you stand outside, it's when all of those thoughts just go into the little filing cabinet
Mhm.
and it just brings you down, and you stop and you think, wow, I've got another day. I've got another opportunity. This is so beautiful. And how to get up to that 7 out of 10 as well, the sustainable seven, because I don't wake up that way every day at all.
Mhm.
So it's going outside, having a coffee, not logging on. I know it's difficult because I do post first
Mhm.
thing in the morning on Instagram, but not logging onto my emails at nighttime so that I can physically switch off as well. And just putting my feet on the ground for me really helps.
Yeah, grounding is super important. And same thing for me. Like I've had those days where I wake up and I just feel off. Like I just
Yeah.
don't feel like nothing really happened, but I don't feel like
Yes.
myself, or I feel a bit depressed. And I always say, like, I literally just need to go on my deck for like 5 minutes, get some
Yeah.
sun or just fresh air. And it just like revitalizes me and makes me
Mm.
feel so different. So I love that.
Yeah, it's like my personal control alt delete. It just like resets.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. Now, do you have a favorite story regarding your connection to spirit?
Yeah, I do. As I say, I wasn't particularly spiritual growing
Hmm.
up at all. But my mum passed away when I was 30. So she was quite young. She was 60. She had early onset Alzheimer's, bless her. But she's so cool. Like she was a lovely, lovely lady. She knew everyone, made friends with
Hmm.
everybody. And so I missed her like when I had my daughter, and I feel that that's probably one of the reasons why I struggled like after having her.
Hmm.
But when my daughter was about two, maybe two and a half, she had a really good conversation. She spoke really well, and we were talking about babies and tummies and how they come about. And she said, "Well, I chose you and daddy." And I was like, "Okay." And she said, "Well," and I was like, "How?" And she said, "Well, I was in the sky and there was like somebody around me, but don't really know who. And you could see all the parents down on the ground." And she said, "And so I chose you and daddy because I thought you were kind. And so I flew down like a big slide and I landed
Oh,
in your tummy and I swam there for a bit." Like how even the swimming thing, like you because kids don't know that they're in, fluid in your
no.
stomach. Um, and that blew me away. And I did do some Googling after it, and that
Uh-huh.
is something that some children know about. So Imi really helped me be more spiritual. And we used to go shopping. So my mum was called Janet. And we'd go to the local shopping centre and she'd go, "Oh, there's Granny Janet." And I'd be like, "Where?" Like, turn around. She's like, "Oh no, she's gone around the corner now." So it's quite funny, but it's yeah, she was definitely somebody that made me think slightly differently.
So interesting because I literally just I got this ordination this weekend, which I had already been ordained as a minister, but it was like a very specific organization that I wanted to do this weekend. And we were talking about just that. It was
Oh,
about how,
wow.
yep, how kids, like when they're born, there are some kids, not everyone, but some remember exactly like
Yeah.
who they chose, why they came, like exactly everything that you were just speaking about, and how it's so incredible, and how sometimes, they get older and they lose it. But when you were talking, I was like, that is incredible that she remembered that. Like,
Mhm.
and it probably like threw you for a loop, like, whoa, what is happening?
Oh, honestly, I was
But
like, I feel like, have I got a devil child? Like,
yeah.
what
No,
is
but it's,
going on?
yeah, it's like a thing. It's a real thing. And we choose like when we reincarnate. And I know not everyone believes that, but
Mm,
we start our life in this world, like even in the womb, like we choose who we want our parents to be based on the lessons that we want to learn. So
mm.
I know it's like a hard concept to grasp if you're not having like an amazing life, or if your family isn't, the best. But yeah, that's typically the process that we go through. So that is so, so cool. Thanks for sharing that.
No, you're welcome. So funny that you were talking about it this week as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was meant to be part of our
Yes,
conversation.
that's always how it works. Now, what is one final piece of advice that you have for listeners who are trying to improve their spiritual well-being?
I think what I would say is you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to believe that you can be happy. And I remember like really being at the depths of my depression and just one day thinking, I need to take charge of this. Like I need to flip this switch and see the world as mine and that I can go out there and get these opportunities that are out there. I can go out and be happy, but just take one step at a time. It's a learning process, it's a growth process. It's about the lessons that we learn along the way. Like, what can I learn from it? And in Feng Shui, we talk about Taoism quite a lot. And Taoism is all about being at one given any situation, which is very, very hard because sometimes we're thrown these situations that are awful and there isn't a silver lining that you can see at the moment. But I think it's very important that you don't act when you're at the point of going through something.
Mhm.
But when you start to feel that you can see wisdom in something that's happened, that you then start to move forward. So I think honoring whatever it is that you're going through, give yourself time to be sad, to be angry, to be bitter, to be jealous, like whatever it
Mhm.
is, like go through those feelings, have a good old cry, but then just start to look after yourself and believe that you can be happy again, wealthy again, that you can be loved because it's possible for everybody.
Amazing. Thank you. And if our listeners want to book something with you remotely so you can peek in their home and help them out, or learn more about you and listen to your podcast, where can they go?
Thank you. So I'm the Feng Shui Flow in most places. So my website, thefengshuiflow.com, the Feng Shui Flow on Instagram, and also my podcast is also called the Feng Shui Flow as well. So it's easy to find me. Thank you so, so much for having me. It's been a beautiful
It
conversation.
was so fun. I feel like I could have gone on and on for
I know.
hours because you said so many things that I wanted to like touch on. But before we go, I did pick a card for you.
Okay.
And it's interesting because as you're talking, like I had something in my mind about it before, but as you're talking, I'm going to share something else. So are you ready for your
Amazing.
card?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you got the Three of Cups, which is in this card, it's like a shell, and then three bowls. Okay. So for me, when I get this card, it reminds me specifically of family, where the shell is our home, and it's me, my husband, and my daughter. And you only have one daughter, do you?
Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah.
So interesting. So I didn't know that, but it's so funny how that's playing out. So at first,
Mm.
when I pulled it, I was like, for me, it represents family and like the three of us in our home. and how
Yes.
you help other people like organize and create like harmony and balance in their home with their family. But I love how now that extra layer like came in with your
Mm, mm.
family being represented by the Three of Cups as
That's
well.
beautiful. How
Yeah,
funny.
that's so cool.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. And so the message for everyone else with that card is get ready for a celebration or happy times. And just get ready to connect with others and keep your heart open because good, happy times are coming. So, Kimberly, thank you so much. You are incredible, a wealth of knowledge, so amazing. And thank you for being here.
Oh, it's been my absolute pleasure. Thank you.